So it just overlaps.
What would it sound like if you started on a minor triad?
This could be the May progression. And you could even say, well, what if one goes down a whole step and another a half step or something like that? You might come up with something entirely different. But this is an amazing piece. It's just a short prelude. It's not what you would consider a deep piece of music that would take a long time to analyze, but what happened was it did take a long time to analyze. When it came out and the musicians are trying to decide why it sounded so good, they were kind of baffled by it. And so even Chopin and the composers themselves had to kind of step back and say, I know it sounds good, I like the sound, but why? What made it sound good? There's no way a 5/7 of a flat dominant should sound good. So why did it? And after they began to compose more pieces, they began to compare all the pieces and say, well, here's what they have in common. Chords formed by stepwise and half-step movement. When they form, we feel this feeling like, ooh, that sounds good. Therefore, it must be acceptable. Our ears must be putting the chromatic movement together. But you can kind of hear how harmonically we're moving away from tonal harmony. I mean, this is almost a hint at atonality. If you can have a chord that's a dominant 7 of a flat 5, and then never go to the flat 5, you're really stretching the boundaries of tonality. And in fact, that's why Chopin has that big da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He has to reestablish E minor now that he's giving you the cadence down. He has to kind of give you a really obvious E minor something. So you could try this now. You don't have to have entire pieces of this. In fact, a lot of the piano works of Chopin are lists. It may just be one section. I mean, they may have traditional harmony, and then all of a sudden there may be 8 measures. You're going, what? And then you look at it and say, ah, there's chromatic movement working here. Now it's beginning to make sense. So a hint that you've got chromatic movement would be that you come up with all these chords that don't make any sense in the key you're in. And you can't seem to think of it as a modulation or a tonicization like the 5/7 flat 5. It just doesn't make any sense as a tonicization. So that would be the big hint. Well, maybe they're using some kind of chromatic harmony. And then just look at the parts and see if you can find somewhere some chromatic movement. And if you can't, then that's probably what's going on. Okay? And that's all he says about it. And we will get some stuff. There's something we can analyze that. So now he has something completely different. Remember, this is just the junk drawer. On page 318, complex harmonic progression. We've talked about fractals. The fact that when they tried to write a program to draw a tree for a computer, they were saying, oh, it's so complex, it'll take a million lines to draw a tree. And then fractals answered, no, it's just a very simple progression. Just take a stick, divide it into 3. Take each of the divisions, divide them into 3. Each of those divisions, divide them into 3. You end up with something that looks an awful lot like a tree. So if you look at a tree, you've got this one thing coming up out of the ground, and then it splits. Anybody ever take botany? Then you'll have to take my word for it. They split in 3, not 2. Children draw trees going like this, but if you look at a real tree, it'll split in 3s. So once it splits into 3, then follow one of them up, it'll split into 3. And then follow any one of those up, and it'll split, and it'll split, and it'll split, until finally you're where the leaves are. So that's kind of what a fractal is. So in other words, the main picture of the tree, the trunk and the first split, is the exact same as the picture of the first split and its split. And that picture is the same as its split and the next split. So kind of like, you see the side of a mountain going kind of ragged like this. So is this distance 1 mile or 1 foot? And the answer is it could be either, because that's what a mountain is, fractal. So sometimes if you take a picture of the side of a mountain, you can't tell if you're up close or far away because they have the same shape. So it always kind of goes like that. So complexity in music. This is what he's going to talk about. Take two very simple ideas, and bring them together, and overlap them. And the music that comes out will appear complex, even though the way you got there was very simple. So, for example, he lists these 6, let's call them simple ideas that you could put in music. Harmonic sequence, you know what that is. You know what first inversion in series, secondary tonal level, tonicizing something, change of mode, enharmonic spelling, chromatic lines. Those are all things we could see. Take any 2 of these and overlap them, and you will have a devil of a time analyzing the piece. Because 2 different things will be affecting something at the same time. So when you look at one, the other will cloud your judgment. You have to kind of see that both of them are there. Now, as an example, he gives sequence and change of mode. At the top of page 319, Mozart Concerto for Piano. It says, presents a relatively easy example of this combination. There's a common harmonic sequence, root up a 4th, down a 5th. That's the atomic, what I call the atomic progression. But at the same time, Mozart's employing change of mode. Now, there are 2 simple things here. It's the atomic progression, down a 5th, down a 5th, down a 5th. But Mozart is overlapping with change of mode. So to write it, it was very easy. First, he sets up the atomic progression, and then he changes the chords to borrow from the minor key. But look at what happens when we try to analyze it. We're in the key of C. Starts with a tonic triad. Next chord is D flat, F, A flat, C. It's Neapolitan, but there's a 7th in it. Okay, 7th could be a suspension. Look at the next chord. Dominant, diminished, 6/5. Wow. You see how that diminished dominant doesn't make any sense, does it?
Half diminished.
Yeah.
It is half diminished.
And then look after that. A 1-4-2, a 4-6-5, which could be a 5, the 1-4-2 could be a 5-4-2 of 4. Look at the second system. Can you see how complex it's gotten all of a sudden? The change of mode itself we would be able to pick up, but when you put 2 ideas together, it's like the writing is actually very simple. And we'll see this. You could put 2 things together. You could write it very easily. I mean, it comes out very easy. But whoever's analyzing it is just scratching their head going, what am I doing? What type? Okay? Because it's got 2 variables. It's like an algebra. We'll have to stop here. Leave you with algebra problem. Take some candy home. Hide it around your house.
You analyze the layers, correct? That's what they're doing?
Well, you have to stare at it long enough that an idea comes to you that maybe more than one thing is going on at the same time. Apart in the boys' restroom and put it together. Have a great weekend.